What's challenging is realising that even though it's a little human, she's just a baby, and sometimes when I pick her up she'll just burst into tears and I don't know what's wrong with her, and that's until I pass her to mum, and then she's fine with mum, and then I take her and she starts crying, and that's been quite hard. That was quite tough.
The hardest bit is the not knowing if you're doing the right thing, but you do have to back yourself. That was one thing that my mum said to me, you do have to back yourself. You're going to be fine. You're a mum now, you have that mother's instinct, you're going to be okay. And that was probably one of the best things anyone could have said to me at that time, because you are in a bit of a haze.
I have such hazy memories around the newborn weeks. I found it really tough, and my wife says to me, oh, wasn't it amazing times? And I say, I really didn't enjoy it. I understood why we were doing it, and I loved the baby, but it was tough. It was the toughest part for me. You know, it's random. You don't know what the rules are. You try one thing, it doesn't work. You run out of ideas.
For me, it was the breastfeeding. That was the hardest bit. The other thing was not knowing what was wrong when she cried, and you know, you exhaust all the possible options, and so you feed them and you change them and you cuddle them, you know, and they're still crying, and that's really hard.
They are an unknown. You don't know what they're going to be like, and you can have your best friend who's got a baby and that baby's brilliant and sleeps through the night, is amazing, and your little one comes along and they don't do any of those things.
I think it was about the fourth night in, and no matter what we did, Bodhi just would not stop crying. And you know, I'm sure we'd gone through everything to make sure that he was okay and that he had everything he needed, and we just couldn't find. I just didn't know what was wrong, and that was really tough and really challenging. Just not being able to do anything, it being completely out of your control.
I remember a couple of times crying with her because I was like, "What are you doing? What's the matter? I don't know how to help you, oh my poor darling."
For me, it was definitely breastfeeding, and I had a terrible time with that.
That's the biggest challenge, I think, is to look after the mum. The man can sort of sleep through the crying a bit, but when the baby cries, a newborn cries straight to the mum's heart and wakes her up instantly. So look after the mum.
Fear, being scared of having a newborn baby, that was very real.
And it was actually a Plunket nurse said to me, you're not enjoying this newborn, you need to make a decision about what you're doing here with the feeding. And I think that was really good advice, because I wasn't happy, but I was doing it because, you know, I thought I should.
So many challenges. Sleep deprivation, feeding them tandem or feeding them, you know, together or separately, or you know, how to deal with that.
Also these 6-week injections, vaccinations, she cried like I'd betrayed her personally and was no longer a good father.
Actually, the feeding thing was very, very challenging for the first 4 months. So it took about 2 hours to feed them both, each feeding time. And so I carried on with feeding till the bitter end, because once we got it, I was like, great, we're doing this.